Welcome to the Coachzing Show, helping you work less, earn more, and reach more people through creative content marketing. Join the Coach Zingers community, where the world's best coaches, therapists, authors, and speakers come together to discover the latest trends, forge powerful joint ventures, and grow their business together. Go to coachzing.com/community to join. And now, here's your host, Doug Foresta.
Hello and welcome back to the Coachzing Show. This is your host, Doug Foresta. This is a show to help you, coaches, therapists, speakers, and authors to work less, earn more, and help more people through creative content marketing. My guest today is Michelle Vandepas, and we're going to be talking about something that I think is really important, which is about I know that for so many of us as coaches and therapists and speakers, we feel like every time that we have to put content out there that, we have to think about what program we're creating or what we're, incredible words of wisdom that we're going to preach to people. And Michelle's going to share with us today some things to think about that maybe we don't always have to be doing that. And let me say a little bit about Michelle. I'll bring her right on. Michelle Vandepas works with self-employed entrepreneurs and small business owners, authors and coaches to do targeted marketing, get more clients, and make more money. She's an entrepreneur many times over, a mom, a foster mom many times over. She's adopted from the USA and a traveler. She likes to hike, think, create, and dance. Her background includes starting several million-dollar companies. She's a Doctor of Divinity and a successful business consultant, as well as a TEDx speaker. And also if you like to connect with Michelle and learn more, I encourage you to visit michellevandepas.com. That's Michelle, Michelle, and Vandetas.com. We'll also put that link on the show page. Michelle Vandepas, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's great to be here this morning.
Thank you. So I thought that we were chatting for a moment before we started, and I love what you said about this mindset shift in content. And I'm wondering if you can say a little bit more about what that mindset shift is.
Well, I think we're so used to what I'm calling old school, like 3 or 5 years ago, where we were taught, and for some 10 years ago, where we were taught to blog, make sure we put out a lot of content, make sure we have good information that is getting out there for people, and maybe a blueprint or some strategy in every blog post or every thing that you write. And these days, I think we're so inundated with information that it just becomes a blur. And sometimes we just want to connect. We just want to connect like real people again. And so what I encourage my clients to do is, yes, it's important to do content that is information and strategy driven in your email list or your blog, Facebook. But also there are times when it's perfectly appropriate and even a relief to just engage, to just say, hey, how are you all doing out there? What's going on? Sometimes life isn't a big woohoo, whoop-de-doo, pie in the sky, rainbows, right? Sometimes it's a roller coaster, and it's okay to admit that, because I think we're all getting so jaded and so overwhelmed with all the information. It's nice to just connect as people sometimes.
I love that, because then it takes the pressure off. And I have to say, I've experienced this myself, where I have several communities that I lead, and sometimes I have to say that there's days where, like you said, there's days where I'm having, things going on, and I don't always feel super inspired, or I don't always feel like I have something really to preach to people that day. It might be like, last week I had to change 3 tires on my car, and that was pretty much my day.
Wow. And that's the real world, isn't it? Right?
Yes.
Even when I was running $1 million businesses, sometimes you have a whole day of putting out fires. Sometimes you have a whole day of strategy. And sometimes you just sit there and go, oh my gosh, what have I done? But then you have the really productive, move forward, kick butt days that take you forward in huge leaps. And I think it's just important to know that's real life. That's how it works sometimes.
So, this is sort of an easy segue, and I think that people can kind of see where this is going. But I'm curious for you then, what you see as the biggest mistakes that we make as coaches, speakers, authors, when we do share content.
Well, it may sound obvious, but really I see so many people still on every single email, on every single Facebook post, sell, 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 or put up 10 tags, 10 hashtags on a Facebook post in hopes that it's going to get seen. And your eyes just blur over. One of the most successful emails I ever did was over Christmas, and I just sent, hey, how are you doing? Are you still there? Let's talk sometime.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a mistake because I got like 2,000 personal responses.
Wow.
And I'm still sort of wading through, and I at least tried to say Happy New Year to everyone. But, sometimes it's just engaging, and so I think we're just going around in a circle. The biggest mistake I see is when everything you're putting up is trying to push or sell. Sorry to do this to you, Doug. Listen to this podcast, right?
Oh, no, I get it.
But yeah, listen. Read my blog post, buy my program. It's, half off today only 3 spots left. Yes, you have to do the marketing, but you've got to mix it in so people know who you are, what you stand for.
Yeah, it's so, honestly, that turns me off so much. And, I'm very careful with that. I do 5 episodes a week of this show alone, and I have other podcasts. And if I do eventually, we obviously promote them in different ways, but, my Facebook feed could easily just be listen to this podcast, but I'm very careful not to do that because I know how obnoxious and off-putting that is.
Mm-hmm. 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 And, I've gotten clients too by doing things like asking for restaurant recommendations.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh, you're going to be in my area. Cool. Again, it's about engaging. I like to talk about marketing as making a swing back to in my grandfather and my great-grandfather's day when you actually walked into a store and you connected with somebody that you knew and you talked for 15 or 20 minutes and they would help you get the things off the shelf and you would never consider going anywhere else except for this one store because you knew the owners, you felt comfortable there, you could trust them. We're going back to that. We're going back to a time where we're really wanting connection with people we buy from. So it's turned into, I think, a little bit of a polarized market. You either go on Amazon or one of the other online sites and buy, or you buy from someone you know and trust.
Right. Otherwise, you could just get it for the cheapest price, whatever it is. But then we become a commodity, and that's not a good place to be.
Yeah. It's changing. I think it's changing. People are really learning to tune out an awful lot of content.
So obviously, one of the things you've talked about is just being more real and authentic. I'm curious for you. You had just mentioned, I thought that was great about getting a client by asking for a restaurant recommendation. I'm curious for you about any posts, content that you've put out that were really especially effective, something that really stands out in your mind.
Well, the one that I did, that I said over this last Christmas where I just was like, hey, how's everybody doing out there?
Yeah, 2,000 emails.
I got 2,000 responses back. I don't know if that was actually effective. It was definitely engaging. I've yet to see. I very often just put things up on Facebook like many other people do, saying, hey, do you want a free strategy session? That still works, especially if someone is looking for a coach or looking for help and they want to connect and talk with you personally. And that strategy actually still works quite well. So I do some of that. I block out some time every month to talk to prospects and actually help them. It's not just a sales call. I actually help and give them some strategy, and we talk about whether it's a match to move forward. Some of the other strategies I've done that have worked really well are just short posts, either on my email list or on Facebook, about what has my own journey, where I've come from, what has worked for me, some of my own personal roller coaster rides. So again, it's being real, talking about the successes, but also some of the not so successes I've had, and sharing my own experience. Seth Godin's brilliant at that. He talks a lot about what's working, but also what has worked and not worked for him in the past. And I think he's a master of a short blog post that's definitely engaging and interesting.
Yeah, and I like what you said about engaging, and you had an interesting point about engaging and effective. But to me, that is effective. You had 2,000 people who wanted to hear what you had to say, and one of the things, I don't know how you feel about this, but I also find it very obnoxious when you feel like you're having a conversation with someone, and the only thing they seem to care about is closing you at that moment, as opposed to having a real conversation with you. Because who knows, maybe you end up maybe you don't work with that person, but you refer 7 people to them.
There is an art. So I started in sales many, many years ago. There's an art to selling. And when I started, I went through intensive training, which, again, pretty old school, but the thing that still stands true is we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and as salespeople, we should listen twice as much as we talk. And I think, especially new people, forget that it's about serving a potential client and finding out if it's a match and what your client needs. And the more you listen and can answer the questions about what your client needs, potential client needs, the more there will be a natural sales cycle, sales flow come from that place, rather than saying, I'm going to get on the phone and close this person. You've got to have a real interest in whether it's even a match, whether you can serve them, what they're looking for. And once you really listen and answer those questions, then closing is going to be a natural next step if it's a match for both of you.
Well, what I hear you saying in that is it's not something, marketing and sales is not something we do to people, but rather it's a natural
Right.
outcome of having a more real relationship with people.
It is, especially if you are selling something that is a little more expensive. You can't do this for a $47 product and make any money, because you can't spend time on the phone with everyone that wants to buy something for $47.
Right.
But if you're selling something for $1,000 and up, it's worth a little bit of time on the phone with these people. And for people selling high-end packages, and doing a lot of, either done for you or personal coaching or the kinds of things that I know that you do, you've got to have some trust. It goes back to having some trust. No one's going to write a big check unless they trust you, know who you are, feel comfortable with you.
Yeah, and one thing that I know that I've heard from listeners, I'm curious to get your perspective on this, is people say, oh my God, what you're saying is that I have to tell people more about my life. And I can't do that because, what if I share things about my life with people and then they don't like it and then they leave?
Yeah, don't you love this conversation? So I call it the business casual. So just pretend that you're at a networking event at your local chamber of commerce or local after hours event. You might talk about that you like to go to Cozumel and go diving, or you might talk about traveling, or you might talk that you have kids, but you're not going to whip out the most personal details of those things. You're going to be generic. But we all talk about our personal life. It's just putting it in perspective. We think that when we go online, there is it's all or nothing. And there's a lot of gray area there, just like when you're going to an after-hours networking function in person or a conference. Back to just being a real person. There is a level of persona online that we all have, but that's true if we're in business as well. And we show up in business with our best dress and our best face and our best foot forward. That's a persona we bring forth in business. And that's the same thing that you bring online. With anything personal you're going to share about yourself.
Is there, I don't think that there's an exact formula, but obviously at some point, we need to put our services out there and let people know what we do. Do you have do you have any suggestion or guide about the percentages of how much should be about just getting out there and engaging people, and how much would be, hey, I have this offer, I have this program?
Good question. I haven't actually thought about it in those terms. It's more of a feel for me when I look at somebody's emails or I look at somebody's Facebook or Twitter feed. Can I read through it without getting overwhelmed? I will say for new people going into business, though, 80% of your time needs to be in marketing in some capacity. That can be networking, marketing, emails, engaging, reaching out to prospects, and it's much more than people think. 80% of your time needs to be marketing in some way. That does not count scrolling through your Twitter feed.
Or redoing your logo. Does that count?
No, that does not count. No. Marketing means engaging, really. Letting people know what you have and who you are.
No, I'm just kidding, because I see so many new coaches, and I did it myself, and it's just a way of hiding from the world, as I'm going to redo my logo for the 50th time.
So I can't possibly go sell anything yet until I have a landing page, an autoresponder with 10 emails, my pitch all written out, and my automatic shopping cart set up. I hear that all the time. Again, it's like you say, it's a way of hiding from the world, but we don't know that's what we're doing. But we're staying really busy, and we're pretending that until everything is set up perfectly behind the scenes, we can't go say who we are or what we do.
Right.
And it's not the truth. The truth is you say who you are and what you do, and then as you need to add those tools to your toolbox, then you add them. You may or may not ever need a landing page for what you have to sell. It depends on what you have to sell, who your market is.
It's so true, because I've certainly made very expensive purchases of services from people, and maybe they had a landing page, but somebody made a referral. I spoke to them. I felt the connection. I didn't go check a landing page. I didn't care. Right. I knew they could help me. I really didn't care whether they had a landing page or not. It wasn't important.
Right. The information online tends to be the backup for how you present yourself to the world. It is not how you present yourself. It backs up everything that you're saying, and it's the foundation. But who you are is who you are. And so whether you're engaging in an email or on the phone or in a podcast like this is the face most people see, not the landing page. For most people. Again, I'm talking about higher-end things than $47.
Right.
$99.
Right. And that's our audience. These are, our audience are people that sell higher-end services. They're not, for the most part, selling just a product.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I think that's very applicable to our listeners. Michelle Vandepas, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us something that we really haven't talked about very much on the show. And I think it's so important because what you're sharing can be applied across pretty much any content area. I mean, whether it's video, podcast, email, right? We can show up and do this in any way that we show up, as you were saying.
Oh, I love it. We didn't even talk about video. Yeah, absolutely. But it's the same. It's exactly the same rules of engagement. Look in the camera, smile, be personable. If you're going to look at your notes, make it obvious. Don't try to hide it. Say, oh, I got to look at my notes. So it looks like you're engaging, talking to your audience. Yep.
I love it. Well, we'll have to do another episode just on video. That would be a great one.
That'd be fun. I'd love to, Doug.
All right. We'll make it happen. Michelle Vandepas, again, if people want to learn more about you, the best way to do that is to go to michellevandepas.com, correct?
That's correct. I've got information there, phone number and email, and a place to apply if you'd like to actually go through a strategy session with me. So lots of ways to engage.
Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing your words of wisdom with us.
It was a pleasure, Doug. Thank you.
Thank you. So thanks everyone again for listening. As always, I will remind you that nothing you hear will make any difference in your life unless you take some action on it. So go out there and make it happen. And until next time, this is Doug Foresta at the Coachzing Show.
Thank you for listening to the Coachzing Show. Subscribe to us via iTunes, and please leave us a review. It helps us grow our awesome tribe. This show is brought to you by Coachzing.com's Speak to Publish book system. If your book is stuck in your head, we can help you get it out in just a dozen hours of your time. Go to Coachzing.com for more information. Have you joined the Coach Zingers community yet? You'll get exclusive access to private mastermind calls where you can get instant marketing help from industry experts. Plus, we'll help you forge deals and partnerships with other like-minded professionals. Go to Coachzing.com/community to join now.